I visited actually Ukraine a couple of times since the beginning of the year. I've seen a very resilient people, and you mentioned that when you came on stage about the horrific situation that people find themselves in today in that country. Meta has decided, post Facebook being banned by Vladimir Putin, to pull your ads from Russia. Do you believe that had companies like Meta been more serious about misinformation and not allowing regimes like Vladimir Putin's to speak the company line, if you will, so virulently, if there had been more policies in place earlier on, would we be in the mess that we're in today?
I mean, social media is bad for dictators. That's why Putin took us down. That if you think about what's happening, if you think about before social media, in a country like Russia, the media was completely controlled by one voice. That's what social media changes. What social media changes is the ability of people to post and to speak. And I think if you look at what happened, certainly we've exited business. We're working closely with their Ukrainian government, setting up WhatsApp channels, taking down Russian information. But the scariest part of all of this is the lack of access. When we go down in Russia, people are losing their ability to actually understand what's happening. And so I think we need to fight for access, fight to make sure that social media exists so that people do get information from all over the world, and that information is valid and real.
But especially with your resources as a company, you have been very much aware of Vladimir Putin's ability to control state media. Russia Today, for example, being able to spout the Kremlin line. It's been that way for a long time. He's been in power for 20 years. Do you think that companies like Meta should have been doing something a lot sooner to stop the spread of misinformation?
So we've been fighting misinformation in Russia. We have a policy on misinformation where we have fact checkers, and we have been labeling things that government says as invalid and misinformation, and doing it in Russia. In fact, one of the reasons they took us down is they asked us to stop labeling those posts as misinformation, and we refused. So again, because we are not controlled by Russia, we were labeling the things they were saying that were false as false. That can't happen by controlled media in the world. And I think it's on all of us to make sure we continue to do that. I think it is a real shame that we're down and that other services are down, because we now don't know what kind of information is available there, and it's much, much, much more restricted.
You're absolutely right. I was just in Moscow for a week watching the evolution of Western-backed sanctions and how that's playing out in the Russian economy. We basically, as most of you probably understand, have unplugged Russia from the global financial system at this point. And as you're saying, in many ways, the Russian public are now completely unplugged from the rest of the world, and it's dangerous.
It's very dangerous, because then they're only going to get information from one source. And I promise that in Russia, they are not labeling those posts as misinformation as we were.
Yeah. To fight that kind of fight, to fight misinformation, what more needs to be done? We're talking about elections that were hacked. We're talking about the manipulation of Facebook. I know that the company has faced a heck of a lot of pressure back at home in the United States to do more, to be more open, if you will. Do you believe that people today can trust your products?
I do. I mean, we've made enormous investments. If you go back to 2016 and you think about Russian misinformation that happened during our election, we didn't know what that was. We were completely unprepared. So was our government. So was every government. There have been several elections since then, 2018, 2020. There'll be another election this year. And those were very, very different, because we had put billions of dollars into building systems. When this happened with Russia, right away we were working on misinformation in Ukraine, and we assembled a war room. We took all of the lessons we learned going back to 2016, and we were able to take down that misinformation right away. And so yes, I think we've learned, people have learned, and made investments in integrity we didn't have before, and we've had enormous success over 2 very clean elections in the US.
Before I let you go, I just want to ask you, from Meta, in the sense, what is the greatest danger do you see going forward? Is it this war of information? Is it access to information? What is the greatest danger that you see as this situation with Russia and Ukraine continues to evolve, beyond the humanitarian question?
Well, there's the humanitarian question, there's the geopolitical question, there's the military question. And the question of living in a world where governments can do the right thing by their people because people have the ability to influence those. And that's certainly something we have to be for. And just, because I guess you said it was our last question, I think it's also a world that's more equal. On International Women's Day, wrapping up on this stage, I really believe that a world where women were running half our countries and companies and men were running half our homes would be a safer and much more prosperous world.
So if Russia was run by a woman, we'd be safer?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. Others did, I believe, too.